What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing the connection between abductions and the missing in the woods. And I really want to give a ginormous, humongous thank you to Mr. Steve Stockton for allowing me to use this script for videos. I really appreciated that. I did write this for him. He paid me for it. And then he was like, yeah, go ahead and use it. So I'm just going to write him another one for Missing Persons and Mysteries. So there's going to be even more information on that channel soon. So Steve, thank you so much for being so generous and so sweet. You really are one of the good guys. So we left off last time talking about whether or not these alleged abductions or whatever is going on could have something to do with the supernatural. And the last thing I said was, admittedly, there are some cases where the lines are very blurred, and even a well-respected research expert could have trouble making the distinction. If you did not see part one, it's extremely important that you go and do that. I'm going to try to remember to put it here, wherever it goes there. Click on it, go watch it, and then come back to this one, because this video got a lot of views, and I know you guys are really interested in it. But where we're starting off, you're going to need to see part one. So, take, for instance, what has become known as the Copley Woods incident. The events of June 1983 are widely regarded as a case of alien abduction, but there are some who claim that, in fact, the incident delves more into the supernatural and therefore cannot be clearly defined one way or another. While this incident was investigated by many renowned and well-known researchers, probably the most notable was Bud Hopkins. His research led to the book called Intruders: The Incredible Visitation at Copley Woods. He continued his investigation into the incident, as did many others, long after the book was published, and more information was made available as each person looked into the strange and somewhat incredible incident. Whatever happened that summer in 1983 in Indiana, it was just one incident in a long list of them for that summer in that place. For several years, strange occurrences seemed to happen. What's with this place? What is with this specific place? We may never know, but let's take a look into the incident and see if we can uncover anything. At the time of the incident, on June 30th, 1983, Debbie Jordan Caldwell was living with her two small sons at her parents' home. On this particular evening at around 6 p.m., after eating what was left from a bucket of takeout chicken, oh my God, that sounds so good, Debbie stood at the kitchen sink washing her hands free from the grease of the food. Debbie was due to go to a neighbor's house and cut out some patterns for a costume. This was how she made her living. It was her livelihood, and she didn't want to be late, so she was quickly trying to wash her hands and get out the door. As she washed her hands, she just happened to look up and saw a strange, extremely bright light through the kitchen window where the sink she was standing at was. It was coming from the pump house from the swimming pool in the backyard. Debbie was becoming increasingly concerned, one, because of the light, but also she knew she had locked the pump house herself just a few hours earlier. There was no way the door was open, and there was no way a light could be on the inside because she had made sure they were all shut off when she locked it up tight for the night. She specifically knew that she had gone in there, replaced the chlorine tablets, and turned off all the lights and locked up tight. It wasn't like one of those things where you were driving in the car and you're like, did I turn the stove off? I don't know. She knew for sure what she had done. There was no question. Debbie called her mother into the kitchen to witness the light, and her mother agreed it was strange, but she thought it was nothing to be worried about. Debbie made her mother promise to lock all the doors after she had left to go to the neighbor's house. Her mother made this promise, and Debbie left to go to work. Debbie took a quick glance over her shoulder when she was at her car and was relieved to see that the light was no longer there. She wanted to be sure, though, as it was bothering her, and so she went and checked the pump house and saw that it was in fact locked. She then ran back to her car and set off on the very short drive to her neighbor's house. This wasn't like the next door neighbor, I don't think. I think it was a few houses away. As soon as she arrived at her destination, Debbie used the neighbor's landline to call and check on her mother, who assured her that she and the kids were just fine. No sooner had Debbie hung up from that call, however, did the phone ring and her mother was on the other line, gripped with fear and seemingly terrified. She told Debbie to come home right away and hung up the phone. Shortly after Debbie had left, her mother had gone about cleaning up from the night's dinner. As she was doing so, she noticed a, quote, basketball-sized ball of light, end quote, in the backyard. It seemed to hover near the bird feeder. She at first thought someone was playing with a flashlight. However, as she watched the quote-unquote soft light, it began to decrease in size, so much so that it soon disappeared completely. Then, for reasons she couldn't explain, she had an uncontrollable urge to contact her daughter and tell her to get home now. She didn't even realize why she was feeling this way. Given the amount of time between Debbie calling her mother and then receiving the panicked phone call a minute later, the events witnessed at the family home must have lasted only seconds. Debbie apologized to the neighbors and promised to contact them when she knew what the problem was. When she arrived back at her parents' home, she entered the property and went straight to where her father kept his gun. Although there was no ammunition for it, she reasoned with her mother, whoever is, quote, out there doesn't know that, end quote. So she's like, I'll pull a gun on these people. They don't know that it's not loaded. Like, we've got to do something here. Perhaps of even more concern, her mother not only couldn't remember why she wanted her daughter to return home, she couldn't even remember calling her. Incidentally, her mother's memory of the call didn't return for weeks. Weeks later, it finally dawned on her that she did make that call that night. Upon returning home, Debbie cautiously walked outside and approached the pump house. Opening the door, she looked inside, pointing the gun in front of her so anyone else could clearly see it. There was nobody there. She even went over to the side garage. On her way to the outbuilding, she could see the family dog, who was wedged under her father's truck. It was extremely agitated and making it obvious it did not wish to be approached, even by Debbie. She stood, leaving the dog alone, and headed towards the garage. She pushed open the door and looked around quickly. It was completely empty and lifeless. However, she began to feel a burning sensation all over her body. She would write 2 decades later, quote, "It was like I was covered in acid," end quote. A sudden urge rushed through her, telling her to leave the building immediately. She turned to leave. Before she could do so, however, quote, "something very bright and electrifying," end quote, hit her squarely in the chest. She turns to run and bam. Debbie would describe this later as if she were, quote, "punched by a huge electric fist," end quote, which soon forced the burning sensation all over her body. She believed she could feel, quote, "every molecule of my body vibrating," end quote, and was paralyzed. In those moments, she believed that she was dead. Although it felt like minutes, Debbie believed the incident lasted only a few seconds. Slowly, the vibrating and burning sensation subsided and movement returned to her limbs. She still didn't have full use of her eyes, though, and experienced huge blind spots due to the brightness of the light. It was then an intense, stabbing, burning pain filled her ear, and with it came the words, as if an invisible entity was talking directly into her mind, that it was, quote-unquote, unfortunate that she had to feel pain. If I may interject here for a moment, this seems to be a common problem for the extraterrestrials, our human tendency to feel pain, both physical and emotional. Most, if not all of them, do not feel these things as we do, and there's many incidents in which something similar has been said, whether telepathically or otherwise, to the human being victimized. There have even been cases where the human was thrown from the craft right at the start of the abduction because the very beginning of the experimentation was so painful, the human would cry out, thus repelling the extraterrestrials and making them give up and abandon their mission. I talked about at least one encounter when I was talking about strange experiences with extraterrestrials in one of those videos. Back to Debbie. The next thing she knew, she lay on the ground near the outbuilding doorway. She had no idea how much time had passed or how she had arrived there. In front of and above her, about 5 feet in the air, hovered a ball of light. It was basketball shaped, but then morphed into an egg shape. After several moments, it vanished from sight. It was then that another shimmering egg-shaped light came into focus around 10 feet in diameter near the pump house of the pool. Even more bizarre, she could see humanoid silhouettes in front of her. She tried to count them and counted 6 in total. These entities appeared to line up and slide into the oval-shaped light, vanishing into it. She wasn't sure if it was perspective or not, but the figures appeared to have larger heads than their bodies dictated they should. The next thing she knew, she could hear someone say, quote, "it's over," end quote. There was nobody there, but her memories of the events came flooding back. She suddenly thought about her children. Strangely, a voice spoke inside her head, assuring her that her children were okay. Now that she could move again, Debbie ran as fast as she could, and when she arrived back at the main house, she ran inside to find her mother standing there, looking outward in a daze. Only when Debbie called out to her did she seem to instantly snap out of the bizarre trance-like state. She decided to return to the neighbor's home, where she was supposed to do the job to begin with, thinking, as bizarre as the incident had been, there would have to be some kind of explanation for it. I don't think she was thinking clearly, because she's like, "Oh, Mom, you and the kids are okay? I was just blasted by some alien light and paralyzed, but I'm going to go back to work now." Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So her brain was probably fried. At least for the moment, right? I mean, let me know what you think in the comments, because this is a cray-cray. When she arrived back at the neighbor's house, though, she thought she had only been missing for about 15 minutes. Her worried neighbor informed her she had left their home over 2 hours ago. It wouldn't be the only incident of missing time that evening either. I believe personally that it's a fact that time works very differently throughout the galaxy, and the extraterrestrials' experience of time is much different from ours. This is also common in supernatural events such as a visitation with the Fae, and in the paranormal community as well when someone is possessed or taken somewhere astrally by a spirit or a guide. In what can almost be considered a form of shock, Debbie's behavior seemed very nonchalant as she randomly invited her neighbors for a swim in her pool. Obviously not thinking clearly. I don't know. I think I would be a little bit more concerned with my children, but that's not a judgment or an indictment. I mean, what would you be doing? Maybe she was just in self-preservation mode and trying to pretend like everything was good and none of it happened. She tried to further entice them by telling them how warm the water would be due to the temperature outside and the time of night. This seemed so strange that it was almost like she couldn't remember the incident at all, or for some reason she subconsciously didn't want to recognize what had just taken place. Debbie was exhausted, disoriented, and confused, and assured her friends she would sew the patterns in the morning. She, her neighbor, and her teenage daughter made their way to Debbie's parents' home. So I guess the neighbor was like, hey, teenage daughter, come on, let's go for a night swim with this person who was just zapped by an alien laser. I would probably go too, because I would want to see what's going on. I would bring you guys and a live stream, just saying. As they were making their way to the pool, however, the headlights of Debbie's father's truck shined in the driveway, announcing his arrival home from work. Debbie checked her watch and realized the time was suddenly 10 minutes after 11 p.m. Somehow, the three of them, so Debbie, the neighbor, and the teenage daughter, had just lost 3 full hours of time, taking a 5 or 10 minute trip back to Debbie's. Debbie decided not to even bring this up, pretend like it didn't happen, and led her neighbors to the pool. As they stepped towards the water, though, the young girl let out a gasp of pain. She claimed that she had stood on something hot, which had burned her foot. By the time all 3 of them were in the water, the teenager claimed her entire leg was numb. Shortly after, all 3 began to feel an intense and sudden nausea, as well as sore eyes and fuzzy, blurry vision. They decided to call it a night, and each went home to their own beds. The following day, though, upon waking, Debbie couldn't open her eyes because they were so swollen shut. Upon seeing a doctor, he would liken, quote-unquote, the injury to someone who had been welding without a mask. Special creams and liquid drops would eventually decrease the swelling, but it would take several weeks for her eyes to return to normal. However, Debbie would continue to be extra sensitive to bright light for the rest of her life. She would also experience sudden flare-ups of burning sensations in her eyes on occasion. Lost in the initial incidents was the eventual discovery around a week or so later of an 8-foot circle in the grass of the yard. So nobody even noticed this for a week because of all the injuries and everything else that was going on. I mean, this has got to be absolutely terrifying. I deal with ghosts and spirits, and this would terrify me. There was also a 20-foot swath which ended in a, quote, perfect arch, end quote, right next to this 8-foot circle in the grass in Debbie's yard. So something definitely landed there. They only saw a ball of light, so maybe the ball landed on the grass. Did it turn into a craft and nobody noticed? I mean, it seems like the ETs can pretty much do anything they want, make us see things like owls. Don't even get me started. I'm going to leave links to other videos that I've done about extraterrestrials, the feeding, and also part 1 to this in the description box, just in case I forget to put it up here. I'm always like, oh, it's up here, but it ends up being there. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm not good, okay, with stuff. The grass inside the circle was brown and dead, as well as the ground itself being gray and cracked. As she stared at it and heard her mother state, quote, that's where the UFO landed, end quote, all of her memories of that evening would flood back with even more clarity. Incidentally, the circular mark would remain there for several years. No grass would grow over this mysterious area, and when it snowed, the snow would quickly melt away from this part of the yard. One thing that did grow there, though, were dandelions, which Debbie would state were, quote, 3 times the size of normal ones, end quote. Furthermore, no animals, be them pets, wandering cats, or even birds, would step onto this now ominous patch of land. Debbie herself would suffer from a wide range of health problems in the years following the incident. These ranged from rashes, headaches, and problems with her teeth to life-threatening allergies she previously had not had. As would the family's dog, who would unfortunately pass away only months after the initial incident. A vet that examined the dog after it died said that instead of the 6 years old that it was, it appeared as though it were 20 human years old. While I can definitely see why some people would mistake some of these things as paranormal or supernatural, to me it is clear this was some sort of extraterrestrial experimentation and or abduction. We have to keep in mind, especially when we think of the missing in the woods, that not all extraterrestrials come in peace and are friendly. Many of them have a desperate need for our vital organs and fluid, and seemingly, even more so, our reproductive systems are of particular interest in so many cases. Perhaps they don't have the time or patience to be easy on us, as it's believed in many circles that so many of these alien races who come here and experiment on and abduct us are in a race to save their own species as well. This is where the deaths in the woods come into play again. This is also where the bizarre injuries should be focused on. We have no idea what kind of technology or equipment they use or what we're dealing with. We don't know the marks or scars they leave. Sure, some of us have a good idea, but do we exactly and actually know for sure? No. All we know for sure is that they're here, that it happens. Some extraterrestrials have hybrids living here who prefer to take their anger out on humans. The woods are a great place to hunt. We as humans know that we have actual seasons. The woods are a great place to hunt. We as humans know that because we have actual hunting seasons. We have seasons for it. Some of us hunt animals, a lesser species in some of our minds. What's to say that these alien races don't feel the same way about us? Maybe some of them like a challenge. This will bring us to all of the athletic scholars and geniuses who are lost in the woods, never to be found or seen alive again. Maybe some of them prefer the weakest of our race. This could be why all of the elderly, mentally and physically impaired, and even the children are taken and never seen or heard from again. There's such a correlation between our own behavior here on Earth as human beings and the behavior of most of the extraterrestrials. At least how we theorize when we look at what is going on with not only these abductions and deaths, but the attacks on the human race in general and in the woods. Look, I could sit here for hours on end and give you story after story and encounter after encounter, and depending on which species of alien I'm speaking of, there will be parameter after parameter that will be exactly the same. So while it's a nice thought that helps the collective sleep well at night as a whole, most of us know these otherworldly visitors do not come in peace. They are here to harm us. And a lot of you guys, well, not a lot of you guys, but some of you guys give me crap in the comments. You're like, Gemma, you're always saying that, you know, extraterrestrials are so friendly and we should contact them, and that's really dangerous because we don't know, and not all of them are like that. I have never once stated that I think collectively as a whole extraterrestrials come in peace. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, just like human beings, there's the good and there's the bad, and we can't look at them as all or nothing, right? They could be one or the other or somewhere in between, which reminds me of the Fae, to be honest. They're here basically to literally kidnap us and prey on our weak, vulnerable, and most helpless. Could there be, are there, some races who are inherently kind and good and watch over and help us? Sure, the Nordics, for example. That's like with anything. We have to take the good with the bad, like I said, and I would urge you to pay extra attention, though, and be extremely well prepared while in the woods, especially if alone or with a child. We must educate our children not only about quote-unquote stranger danger regarding humans, but to an extent about extraterrestrial and even paranormal entities like demons and fae who are here to hurt us and who are very, very real. They're real. We absolutely must take our children seriously when they tell us there's a monster under their bed or a demon in their closet. The imagination of a child is a beautiful and precious thing that we must cherish, but we must also believe in it. As adults, most of us can care for and protect ourselves, but only if we know our enemy. As amazing and wondrous as it is to come to the realization that there is life on other planets and throughout the galaxy and universe, let's not get caught up in the magic of it all and remember to keep ourselves and those we are responsible for safe, lest we become another statistic or another encounter story, perhaps even another case of someone going missing and seemingly vanishing off the face of the earth while out for a simple stroll in the woods. So what do you think, guys? Do you think that the Copley Woods incident was extraterrestrial, supernatural, paranormal, demonic? What do you think about the correlation between the ETs, abductions, and the people in the woods? If you guys read my book, Missing the Fae Theory, you'll see that I believe the Fae are responsible for a lot of it as well, also because of the parameters. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed hanging out with me, if you enjoyed the content. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you're already subscribed, massive, massive thank you to you. If you'd like to purchase a copy of my books, Missing the Fae Theory and or Encounters with Evil, 101 True and Terrifying Stories, that one I did with Steve Stockton. Thank you guys so much for the bestseller title. The Kindle and paperback links on Amazon will be available in the description box. If you want a signed or autographed copy, hit me up. GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com, and I will take care of that for you, but hit me up before you make the purchase. Ugh. If you'd like to make a donation to the channel, PayPal, Cash App, Chime, Vero, and Patreon. Those links will be in the description box. You can also email me at GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com with any questions you may have if you'd like a personal intuitive oracle reading, either the 1 hour through video or the 30 to 45 minute remote that I do. Any questions that you may have about manifesting the business that I'm trying to run and get my website up for, of the things that I sell, spell jars, sage bundles, crystal packets, I can help you with spiritual healing and with getting rid of negative energies and entities. All you have to do is hit me up if you just need someone to talk to. Again, GemmaJadeParanormal@gmail.com. If you're not subscribed to MoonBearOracle, please go on over and subscribe over there. I would appreciate the support as I try to get that channel up and running. I'm writing another story for the Halloween edition or issue of the Paranormal Press magazine. We're going to get the misses changed to miss. It's going to be awesome. If you want to purchase it, I will try to leave the link in the description box, or if you want an autographed copy, hit me up again through email before you make the purchase. Awesome, awesome. I totally love this magazine, and I love the opportunity they're presenting to me. Also, I'm going to leave links in the description box. On November 6th, 2022, I am going to be doing a double episode of Disembodied Voices on the Paraflixx Network. Guys, this is huge. It's the paranormal Netflix. They're doing a 3-day free trial. So if you want to watch me, the link's in the description box, but wait until like November 4th, get that free trial. Or I believe it's like $30 a month, which is why I'm telling people wait for the free trial if you want to see it. The audio version is all over the place on podcast forum. I don't know anything about podcasts, podcatchers, anything like that, but I will leave the links in the description box if you want to listen. On Wednesday night from 7:15 to 11:15 p.m. Eastern Time, myself and Ghost Dragon CW are live for the entire 4 hours, and I am pulling one random card for whoever comes in. Each and every person, first come, first serve, and I will give you a weekly intuitive oracle reading for free / donation recommended, right? Either way, come in. It's an amazing, amazing time. I'm getting all flustered because there's a lot of spirit here because I was just doing readings for my patrons. If you donate $20 or more to my Patreon, you will automatically receive a remote personal intuitive oracle reading from me every single month automatically as my thank you. To my patrons who stuck with me, didn't abandon me, I love you guys so very much. I am going to be getting some content out to you. Thank you so much for your patience. I have so much going on, and I'm really hoping to declutter and simplify my life very, very, very soon. I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. All of these opportunities, and I owe it all to you guys, because if you guys weren't around, didn't support me, I wouldn't have been able to come this far, and I'm just so incredibly grateful. And that's why I say, if you guys need anything, just hit me up. Thanks again, Steve Stockton, for allowing me to use the script you commissioned from me. I really do appreciate it. I got a ton of views, and I owe that all to you, my mentor, my friend. I love you. There will also be a link for my Amazon wish list gift link, things like crystals, decks, jewelry, all different kinds of things. I put my own personal stuff on there too, so I don't have to make like 20 lists, but mainly it's just stuff you can send me as like a thank you, or if you want to pick up a deck, you want me to use a certain deck, whatever. That link will be in the description box as well. I think I'm getting overtired, guys. It's like midnight here, so be kind to each other. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourself, and never accept anything less than others being kind to you. Always go in grace. Smile at a stranger, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.